Hey, everybody, it's Jim Matthews going to be here in a few minutes. Today, we're talking bracketology. And as we all know, there's nothing more fun than March Madness because it really does touch every corner of the country from east to west, from north to south. And it gives, a number of teams that you really don't hear of an opportunity for that Cinderella story. And we're hoping for that this year as well. When Matt joins us in a couple minutes, we'll talk basically, what the, some of the potential opportunities are for some of these teams. Matt's with us right now. Hang on one second. Matt, welcome. We're live, and we're just getting ready to talk bracketology. This is one of my favorite times of the year because you've got so many different teams from so many different conferences. A lot of kids, that go to small schools. Here they come. They get their opportunity. A kid by the name of Steph Curry got his opportunity when he was at Davidson, and more than a few, NBA players started out and got their real notice when they landed in the tournament.
Yeah. You think about a guy like CJ McCollum, who when he was at Lehigh beat Duke in the tournament. That's another one. You got Jimmer Fredette at BYU. There's always these March Madness stars.
I go all the way back to Danny Ainge at BYU.
Yeah. But there's always these stories, these March Madness runs, the Cinderella stories, and to be honest, and whether this is fair or not fair, maybe it upsets some people. I just don't really pay attention to a broad spectrum of college basketball until about this point in the year, because it has fallen victim to what I'm very nervous of college football falling victim to is the first 3/4 of the regular season that just really don't matter that much. Like, the games stack on top of each other, but nobody's tuning in for the regular season basketball. They want to see March Madness.
Well, I also think that, until you really get into deep conference play, it's tough to really kind of get excited. I mean, there's some tournaments where if you are a basketball fan, college, or in my case, in your case, college sports fans in general, it doesn't really matter whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever, we'll tune it in. But I think the casual fan, you get excited when you see some of these great matchups in the early tournaments, because sometimes that's, they pop up during, the Thanksgiving holidays or the Christmas holidays. And so there's these holiday tournaments that a lot of times will be far more compelling to watch than, say, for instance, some of these bowl games that we have been subjected to, especially now since the bowl games don't often have the same guys in it that you saw play all season long. So there's, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't really get intense until about this time of the season when all right, let's take a look and see where things are going and what conferences are doing what, and perhaps as the conference tournaments are not that far away, you start to really focus in on what's going on.
Yeah, because in all due respect, like those tournaments, those feast week tournaments and those Christmas tournaments, those are fun to watch. Those are entertaining. That can get me to turn the TV on. But part of it is college basketball also suffers from a very long non-conference schedule where it, for a good portion of teams, it doesn't really decide a whole lot. Like I've got the past 2 years, Georgia's been really good in their non-conference, and then they've gotten into SEC play. And as of right now, they had a losing record at this time last year in SEC play, and they've got one now as well. So non-conference can be misleading unless you're one of those top teams. Like if you're Michigan State, Duke, Kentucky playing in that Blue Bloods Classic that they play in every year, that's good. That gets the TV on, right? And the Maui Invitational tournaments like that, those will get the TV on. But for a lot of these teams, a lot of their non-conference schedules are rather uninspiring.
True. And there used to be one of the ones I really enjoyed watching was, the Alaska tournament. And because it came on later in the evening, and, at that point in time, you're not really into NBA basketball. You're just kind of like looking for something. And they always had a really good, a really good standout situation where they had some of the top teams playing in it. So, I pulled up the brackets. There's so many different, whether it's Joe Lenardi or, any number of different ones. And pretty much everybody has these four on the one line. That's Michigan, Connecticut, Arizona, Duke.
Mm-hmm.
That's your one line for pretty much. So the Midwest region would be Michigan. So that would put Michigan as the top, um, the top seed in the tournament at this point. Connecticut in the South region. The West region would be Arizona, and the East region would be Duke.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think really where the one seed you have the potential for the most change on is
Mhm.
probably that Arizona team, and it has nothing to do with really Arizona themselves. It has
Right.
a lot more to do with that conference and how much deeper it is than everybody
Mhm.
else,
Right.
really. Because there's a number of teams that can knock them off. Like if Iowa State goes through and they finish the season strong and they don't lose another
Mhm.
basketball game from here on out, and then they go win the Big 12 tournament,
Mhm.
Iowa State's probably going to find themselves on that one line.
Right.
Um, it still allows for movement.
Well, there's a lot of movement that can
Yeah,
happen here.
yeah, but Michigan, it feels like something that's a lock. Duke, it feels like you would need like I don't even know if there's a team in the ACC that's capable of going and winning the ACC title and replacing Duke on the one line. I just don't think that's possible. But
I
it's really
don't
going
think
to
it's going to
be
happen for UConn either.
yeah. And so what it's really going to take is it's going to take a team in that top
Mhm.
probably top 8, I think, is the only team, or probably the only teams that have an actual shot at being on the one line
Right.
come Selection Sunday.
The South region is being played, of course. Where else would you play in the South but Philadelphia? Um, yeah, South Philadelphia. It's the Houston bracket, so there you
Mhm.
go. The Chicago bracket is Michigan, and they're kicking theirs. Again, these are one lines, and these are we'll get through them and talk a bit about them. But at the end of the day, folks, I mean, this all can be changed by about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I mean, it just
Mhm.
depends on what goes on. Um, the Chicago bracket, which is they start off in Buffalo, which is a Thursday Saturday situation. They have Michigan at the 1 seed. They got UMBC or Morgan State. You remember UMBC was the one that took out the 1 seed when they were 16 seed a few years back. There's
Yeah,
Virginia, right? That they
it
took out.
was. It was Virginia and one of Tony
Mhm.
Elliott's final years. Yeah, right
Right. Yeah.
before they won the title.
Yeah, it was. Auburn they have as an 8 seed in the in Buffalo, and then UCF is a 9 seed. Connecticut in that bracket, they've got Bethune Cookman or Long Island. Uh, I'm sorry, these are they actually have the playing game, so it's UMBC versus Morgan State and Bethune
Okay.
Cookman versus Long Island in the playing games. So that's kind of their bracket. Then they got Wisconsin and SMU. So there's a lot of different teams that are here. There are some surprises to me about some of the conferences getting I don't know if the term disrespected would be fair, but certainly not as acknowledged as one would expect them to be. Um, Lenardi has 10 from the Big Ten and 10 from the SEC in the tournament, and then 8 from the ACC and 8 from the Big 12.
Yeah, the Big 12 may be in a situation where they're a little bit more top heavy
Mm-hmm.
than they would probably like to be. And that's fine because they're going to put out Houston, who's number
Mm-hmm.
2 overall, who's number 2 in the AP right now. They're going to put
Right.
out Arizona, who's number 4 in the AP, Iowa State, who's number 5,
Mm-hmm.
who is Kansas, that's probably I think they're sitting around number 12 or 14
Right.
in the AP poll. So they'll have quality over quantity when it comes to the
Mm-hmm.
product that they'll put out there come the tournament. And then on the flip side, you're going to have the SEC where really you're getting more quantity than quality. You look at a lot of the SEC teams, not many are breaking the top 10. staying there with any kind of consistency. I think right now, the way that Florida's playing basketball, they probably have the best shot in terms of SEC teams that can win a title.
Well, they've got, according to the one I have, which is Ken Palm. Ken Palm has them opening in Tampa, which would be kind of a cool thing for them. But they're a 3 seed, so right now the number 1 team in the SEC is a 3 seed.
Yeah.
They've got Florida would be as I said, in Tampa on a Friday Sunday grouping with East Tennessee State, St. Louis. It's a 6 seed. UCLA versus San Diego State. That's a 11 seed, a matchup there. So yeah, I mean, as we look down this list, there's so many different teams and possibilities, because if you look at some of these teams, where they play in one bid conferences, right? So, right now they've got, I'll throw in my South Florida Bulls. They've got them as a 12 seed. Okay, they're leading the American Conference, but if South Florida loses in their tournament, the American tournament, to whomever, I don't think it's not going to be a 2 seed. It's not going to be a 2 bids league from that standpoint. So whoever gets in there gets in there. So a lot of these teams that we are talking about here, a lot of it depends on the tournament, their conference tournament, because they are 1 bids leagues, and you're not going to see, right now the power conferences are, as we just said, we got basically, what is it, 20, it'd be 36 of the teams, according to Lenardi, would be from the Power 4 conferences.
Yeah, and that's where you get some of these weird, like maybe you feel like a team is going into the tournaments, and you get that late flipping. Right now, you look at it, Miami, Ohio, for the love of God, they're in the MAC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Miami, Ohio is undefeated. They are, what is it, 26-0? They're 26-0, undefeated throughout the entire season. Obviously, probably going to be the odds-on favorite to win the MAC championship. What if they don't win the MAC championship, though? And now you're in a scenario where Miami of Ohio is probably still going to get in that large bid, but now that MAC conference went from a potentially 1 bid conference to now it's a 2 bid conference when you weren't expecting it. And so somebody that thought they were in on Selection Sunday is going to find themselves on the outside looking
in. Getting bounced. Yeah, and what I am surprised is that perennially the Mid-America Conference has good basketball. And so when you've got Miami at 28-0 and not ranked any higher than what you're just talking about, I find that kind of bizarre. It's you can disrespect them all you want to, but when come tournament time, I'm pretty sure not anybody wants to really play Miami of Ohio.
No, absolutely not. They do have a, God, what was it? I was watching Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt last night after the Georgia Kentucky game, and they put up the chances. They don't have a very good. I think they gave them like maybe a 30% chance to finish the regular season undefeated, and they only have like 5 games left, which I thought was interesting. I think it speaks to how difficult it is what they've done up until this point, and really what it would be if they were to finish the job. The relative difficulty, because I mean you've got 5 games left, and this is a team that's been rolling. They're 26-0. They'll probably be fairly heavily favored along the way, and yet still you're only looking at roughly a 30% chance to go 5-0 in these next 5 games. And if I was Miami of Ohio, though, and their head coach, there is almost like this is going to sound really weird, I would almost rather lose one of these 5 games than to not.
I'm going to tell you, I have a thing, and it's and the thing is, I want one, if I'm rooting for a specific team, I want them to lose a game either in the tournament or in the final couple of games of the season, I don't want them going into the NCAA tournament on like a 10 or an 11 game winning streak.
Yeah,
That just scares the living daylights out.
I think part of it is my personal superstition. God knows I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of them when it comes to sports.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's also something to be said for when you do get on a roll like that, you can feel invincible and you can feel unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously it's on that coaching staff to manage that
Mm-hmm.
and temper expectations and keep them focused and locked in and focused on the goal that's ahead, not what you've done in the past. But there is something to losing and kind of feeling your weaknesses and almost re-understanding your mortality in sports
Mm-hmm.
that I think is a good thing for a team as they enter postseason play. I think you said in the tournaments, I want a late regular season loss if I'm Miami. That way I can lick my wounds, I can readdress. We know who we are. We know we're still this basketball team, but now
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of re-understood that yeah, we can get beat. Yeah, this is still sports. Not everything's perfect, but we are the best team in this conference. We can go out and win this conference tournament and make a run in March.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing is let's get out there. Let's get in it. Yeah, getting in a tournament, that's the key.
Hmm.
And how you get there, that's one way or another. It doesn't matter. But the key, I think, is just getting there. And I think that from our standpoint, watching the games and watching the teams, you've got teams that I mean, it's hard not to root and then look at teams and say, well, these are good teams, these are bad teams, and some of these teams you wonder just how good they really, really are because the conference play gives you gives you one microcosm of what they are, and if they're starting to play better, um, I don't know how much better Arizona can play, if that's possible. Um, you know, the higher echelon teams. As much as we love the Cinderellas, there aren't that many Cinderellas that ever make it to the championship game.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Cinderellas aren't something that are really ever gonna win a title, like,
Mhm.
unless you consider like an eight seed winning the title a
Yeah.
Cinderella,
Mhm.
which I think would be fair to do.
Sure.
Um, but still, it's not something where you really are going to see them win titles. You can see them make deep runs, and those deep runs are fun and they are great, but the odds that they are actually going to win the whole thing are slim to none.
Right. You get the Sweet 16 rolls. You can see sometimes you even get into the eight, right?
Hmm.
And then the teams like FAU who got into the Final Four a few years back.
Yeah,
So you do get teams that can make it that far, but
yeah,
making it all the way to the top, that's a much different scenario and much more different difficult from that standpoint because you just have to play. A lot of it has to do with depth. I mean, you've got those. You got 5 or 6 kids who can really play basketball and have been playing basketball for a number of years on the same team, which is good. But then your eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th man is nowhere near what, say, Duke or Michigan or Arizona's eighth, ninth, 10th guy is still could start on your team.
yeah. And some of it has to do with depth, some of it has to do with straight up style of play. Like some of
Mm-hmm.
these teams beat you in the way that they play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked extensively about Mike White and his philosophy and how
Mm-hmm.
he runs this Georgia program and their style of basketball, how they like to be fast, push the
Mm-hmm.
tempo, stuff like that, really spread you out, shoot a high volume of shots. That way it can kind of cover up some of those defensive inefficiencies. And it's something that those lower level schools do is they play a lot with their schemes and styles of
Mm-hmm.
play. And sometimes those styles of play can nullify, but at a certain point, it's almost like you're flipping a coin on that style of play or spinning that style of play wheel. You've come up a winner. If you've come up a winner 3 times against a better team than you, eventually you're going to get got, and that can happen as well. Think about UMBC. They got 2 under their belt when
Mm-hmm.
they upset that 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Their style of play lined up very well in the next round.
Right.
You can't be set for Fairleigh Dickinson, who beat Purdue. Like
Right.
their style of play didn't match up. So when you look at these Cinderellas, how do their styles of play match up? Are they threading a needle? Are they
Mm-hmm.
winning convincingly in these basketball games? And that can kind of give you indicator on future success going forward in the tournament. If they're scraping by or if they have a funky style of play, then it's not going to be built to sustain.
Well, the other thing too, you talked about tempo. I know when Mike was at Florida, and I mean, tempo is something that it only works if you got the players to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
You can run all day long, but if the guy's missing shots, you're just running down and missing shots. And that's a problem. And one of the things that some of these teams rely heavily on their 3-point shooters, and if you're having a bad night, you're going to find yourself 10, 15, 20 points behind a team that there's no way in hell you're going to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, last night when Georgia played Kentucky, they shot 45% from three.
Whoa.
That's
amazing.
It's an incredibly high clip. They won by 8 points. If they don't have
they shot 45% and won by 8 points.
Yeah, if they don't have that type of 3-point shooting night, then they're not going to beat Kentucky, because on the other side, Kentucky shot 40%. They couldn't defend as well on the other end of the floor, but they were able to outscore them. Like, that's something that is a style of play that you can see through the indicators. And I can tell you, having watched them all year, that their style of play, if they're not on shooting that night, they're going to get their breaks blown off. Like, it's not going to be close if they have a bad shooting night, because they don't have the ability to defend. And the same thing happens for a lot of these lower level teams. Is maybe they're really good defending, but if they play a really good scoring offense, they're not going to be able to put up points with them, because they're going to be able to score on them and they won't be able to score on the other end. Like that's stuff that's very legitimate and real. So there are trends that you can look at and point to, and there's obviously going to be popular picks in terms of the upsets, but it's really a coin toss when you get into the brackets and trying to decipher where these upsets are going to come from.
A lot of times when you fill out the brackets, you have kind of a fun one where you'll say, okay, I'll do one serious one and then just one crazy, where I just want to pick, and I'll take some flyers on some teams that I normally wouldn't, but as I said, you do one that's serious and one that's not. And more often than not, at least in the last few years, it's pretty much been chalk through the first couple rounds. I mean, there hasn't been a number of teams that have, because I don't consider like an 8-9 or a 5, a 4-5 type thing, where that's not really an upset. If a 5 beats a 4, that's not really an upset. That's just two evenly matched teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty much been chalk the past few years. And this year, given what we've seen so far, in those 4 1 seeds, I don't really think there's, you said Arizona could get got, and I agree, but there's really not. Watching Duke play North Carolina, Carolina got that. You obviously saw that game. Carolina got them at the last second, literally at the last second.
Yeah, only time they led in the game.
Yeah, that's the only one that counts. Sure, So anyway, to me, it was one of those things where you sit there and go, okay, cool, good for them. They got what they deserved, and but do I think that Duke's going to lose the ACC tournament? I don't think so.
No, and and that's where you get those situations where you'll have a buddy who, like, he'll go through and he's dove into the analytics and he's tried to pick his bracket perfectly, and he's spent hours trying to comb through stats and figure this out in an effort to win this group bracket that's going to pay him like $100 or something like that.
Right.
And his girlfriend will be in the same bracket, and she likes that team's logo a little bit better, and she's going to blow him out of the water picking off logos. Like that's where you're at with this stuff. There's no rhyme or reason, as much as you can try to be predictive about it. But that's honestly what makes college basketball great. There was I think it was John Rothenstein, put out a tweet that was like, Georgia's lost 5 of their last 6 basketball games. They just went into Rupp Arena and won. Did they get their mojo back? Maybe, but this is just college basketball. So
And they
That
got
that's
good. You can get good for one night.
Yeah, you can absolutely get good for one night,
Yeah.
and one night is all it takes when you get into these end of season tournaments.
Hmm. And the fun thing about you were talking about. My wife is a big fan of picking the colors of the teams. It's
Mm-hmm.
she's a big North Carolina fan from a standpoint of the color of North Carolina, Carolina blue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and also she's a big fan of Gonzaga. So there you go. So yeah, you're right. It's we used to joke that the sports department we never won the office pool. It was usually the secretary on the or the or one of the guys in the newsroom who didn't know much about college basketball. But the one thing about it, um, when I lived in Washington, was that every state in the country is represented in the tournament, and that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That that really the small schools, the big schools, whatever it is, this it's a great equalizer from that standpoint. For one day on Thursday and one day on Friday, um, a lot of offices kind of shut down because you know people want to see those games, those double headers. In the afternoon, those double headers at night are
Mm-hmm.
fun to watch, and they truly bring people to the television like it hasn't many many years ago. And we can a lot of that. I give credit to two guys who are one guy who's a commissioner who is no longer a commissioner. He's retired. Michael Resco and Tony Petiti. Those two guys were the guys who built March Madness and then decided, you know what, we need to expand it and take it to TNT and bring everybody involved and get everybody the opportunity to see a game. And they started. It was both Tony and Mike who started the um, um, the streaming aspect of it. Giving people the opportunity to watch it on your, and then back then it was a computer,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's on any device you want. And the NCAA has it, and but NCAA.com. So they've given people the opportunity to, no matter where you are, you may not be near a television, but you can watch on your phone, you can watch on the computer, you can enjoy the games. And I think that's something to that people, as we obviously know from the amount of work that's not done on Thursday and Friday during that week, that has become culturally something fun because it draws in the casual fan. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're getting people who are rooting for teams who are small little schools that hey, we made it, and good on
Yeah.
them. I mean, they did make it, and you know they have every right, just like everybody else, to sit there and root for that team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you go back to a Final Four a few years ago where you have FAU and San Diego State playing each
Yeah.
other.
Hmm.
Like schools that, with all due respect, they're not going to do that in football. Like there's not a lot of sports where you can do that, but this sport allows for it. And it is fun because go back to like high school. I had a high school class. I think it was either my junior or senior year of high school,
Hmm.
and I had a wrestling coach that was my he was my history teacher.
Hmm.
Well, for the Thursday and Friday that March Madness had started, we weren't doing history. We just put some basketball up on the TV and watched March Madness.
Hmm.
I'm sure that wasn't in the I don't think that was in his curriculum, but it sure was fun and I did like it because
Not in the syllabus, yes.
yeah, because hey, it's better him doing that versus what I was doing in my other classes at that point, which was I probably had my phone like sitting on my knee watching the
Right.
game, trying to listen to the lecture. That tells you how plugged in I was to school at the end of my high school career.
I didn't have the luxury of the phone situation when I was in school. Mine was a transistor radio with an earpiece that you snaked up your shirt so that nobody could see it and put it
Mhm.
in your ear. and then you would reach over to get something, the earplug would fall out, and the teacher would go, "Excuse me, Mr. Williams, what are you doing?" And you're like, nothing. It's I'll just pick it up and turn it off. Thank you very much." Kudos, by the way, to Westwood One. Um, they have done this now for almost 40 years. They've covered the games, and they do it for it's free. You can listen to them anywhere, and they've got some of the best announcers for college basketball that I think I've ever heard. And those guys are amazing. When George Mason made the run um, back in it's been quite a few years now. Um, Dave Sims, who's the voice of the New York Yankees, been a long time friend. He was out in Seattle for a number of years. Dave's call of he I don't know how it ended up, but he got all of those games that George Mason was in, and it the calls were great. These guys on the radio for Westwood One do an outstanding job. So I know, look, the TV guys are all good. They're outstanding broadcasters, but I got to say, 100%, there's no question that Westwood One does a good job as well. And God love him. May rest in peace, Greg Gumbel. What a job he used to do. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
God, Greg would come on at noon and still be there at midnight.
Yeah. Yeah. Always at the desk. That panel would rotate around him, but
Mhm.
he was always there running the ship. Yeah.
And
He
then
was.
Ernie got involved, and that was
Mhm.
just Purdue. And the funny thing was, they'd fly Ernie and I think Ernie and Chuck went to New York. They'd fly
Yeah.
up to New York, and you sit there going, okay, but they still had a team down in Atlanta. You're thinking like, well, do they actually have to be in? But that was because Clark Kellogg and some of those guys were up there in New York, and they do, they've done a really nice job of being able to whip around and give you the games that you want to see, and put you in places where you get to learn things about players, you get to learn things about schools, you get to learn things about these different side stories that you never really would have heard about any other place. In which I think that's why the tournaments become so engaging, is because the casual fan can turn in and have some fun and learn.
Yeah. And they you talked about that desk and Ernie and Chuck and Clark
Mhm.
Kellogg and those guys.
Yeah.
And they put together really what I think they can in terms of an all-star
Mhm.
cast of people, whether that be your halftime shows, your sideline reporters, your play-by-play, your color
Right.
commentators, all of them. Um, they're all fantastic with what they do. Like it's very rare that I'm going to flip on a game. Like I get to the point, it takes me like a round of games to where I understand
Mhm.
this guy's going to be in this region, this guy's going to be in this region, this guy's
Mhm.
going to be in this region. I know where I'm clicking at that point,
Mhm.
but very rarely am I disappointed when I click on a different region and
Mhm.
I hear a different voice because they've got a great group
Mhm.
of broadcasters calling these games.
Yeah, and it's funny because Chuck knows the NBA so well
Hmm.
that he just doesn't have to. He can just roll out and he knows what's going on. This is
Yep.
not the case when it comes to college basketball, and I think that's the fun part for him, is he actually has to do some work there,
Hmm.
and study a little bit, and they kid him about it, but he definitely leans a little heavier on Clark on that one, from
Hmm.
that standpoint. And Clark, I'm proud. Clark, I used to do Big Ten basketball with us. That was his first gig, and he's really grown tremendously as a broadcaster, and really like him. He's a good guy, and he's a tremendous broadcaster. Um, One of my favorite guys in college, basketball and football both, Kevin Harlan.
Hmm.
Kevin Kevin brings it every game. I mean, the intensity's there. When Kevin Harlan is broadcasting game, you can tell.
Hmm.
That's a Kevin game. You can hear him. He's got that. When the excitement level is there, and it's not generated for being shtick, or to hype something. It's because he genuinely enjoys it.
Yeah. And that comes through. It was a few years ago. I think it was. I think it was Furman versus. It was either Clemson or Virginia. It was an
Mhm.
orange ACC team, and it wasn't Miami.
Okay.
Um, and they hit a deep buzzer beater three at the horn.
Hmm.
And there's a clip of him, and I think it's him, it's Stan Van Gundy, and I
Hmm.
forget who else is sitting there at the desk with him. And he literally just jumps back in his seat and like holds everybody, like making
Right.
sure, like, hey, don't interject, let this moment go.
Just shut up. Yes.
Yeah. So it comes through. It comes through in his voice, but you see the way that he acts sometimes when they get those shots of him calling the games,
Mhm.
and you can tell that it's something that he is really passionate about. And I think when people care that much about sports and enjoy the stuff that they're doing that much,
Mhm.
is your work is eventually going to reflect the level of care that you have about these sports.
Well, and we've both been in major arenas, and the noise level, the crowd noise level, is deafening.
Hmm.
And what people don't really understand is that the announcers who are setting courtside, they hear they hear in the building. Okay, so
Hmm.
even though they have headset on, the mic is right next to the mouth. So if they're yelling or going crazy, and people are wondering, why are they screaming? Well, they're screaming because they think they can't be be heard over the crowd,
Yeah,
because they're hearing, even though you have headset on, it's still loud. And so it becomes a situation where oh, Gus Johnson used to get in trouble because people would scream because Gus's voice would go up higher, like 3 octaves higher as the things got more exciting. And I love people love to do impersonations of Gus, but it's just Gus being excited because the crowd's excited,
yeah,
and you feed off the crowd. Broadcasters always feed off the crowd.
yep, absolutely.
So there's that. So um, do you have, as we move here, getting closer to the end of the show here today, do you have a bucket list of college basketball arenas that you would like to go to before down the line sometime? I know
Yeah, I think
parks.
you have.
Everybody has ballparks and
Yeah,
football stadiums and all that, but there's also really good places to go, that that you would want to watch a basketball game just because of where it is.
yeah. Like I think you have Allen Fieldhouse. That's one of them. The two here in
Mhm.
Carolina and the Dean Dome and
Mhm.
Cameron Indoor. Rupp Arena. It's a little less. It's a little less. In terms of I would say historical value, but it's big and it's loud and it's Kentucky, and that's
Mhm.
what basketball is. Then you've got. I feel like Indiana's somewhere special as
Mhm.
well in terms of the atmosphere.
Mhm.
Those are just the few that come off the top of my head. But yeah, it's special. Like Butler's a fun place
Mhm.
where they play basketball too.
Mhm.
So you've got all those kind of places. And then I mean, like I wouldn't say this is necessarily bucket list in terms of the college atmosphere, but
Mhm.
heck, St. John's plays in the Garden.
Mhm.
So
I'll tell you, there's if you go to a Big East tournament, was back in the day, that Big East tournament rocked that building,
mhm,
and better than any Knicks game, better than any other event that went there. People would line up and go because those you know the Big East was built along that I-95 corridor, and they all played in Boston College played in the Garden,
mhm,
and Georgetown played at what was then the Cap Center, which was out in Landover. They all played in big NBA arenas, and they filled those places. And
yeah,
Syracuse played in that dome. So you
yeah,
know, Philly played in the Spectrum, which was the NBA. So yeah, they all played, and then when they came, the great thing about you know the Madison Square Garden for the Big East was you could get on a train and go, and Madison Square Garden, for those who don't know, is actually physically under seven floors under Madison Square Garden is Penn Station. So you can get off the train and literally get on the elevator and go up to the garden. So it's a trick. I'll tell you one that I was impressed with was Pauley Pavilion, UCLA's arena. Just because you went in there and you realized you look up and you see banners and it's like I've never seen it's like going to Boston Garden and seeing all the Celtic banners. You just look up and go, my God, what did John Wooden do here? He was amazing.
Well, what's it called? Like not in reference to anything historical, but man, UCLA's head coach had a night last night. Mick Cronin did. They were playing, I think it was Michigan State, and they had one of their guys put up a hard foul late on a fast break layup, and Mick Cronin threw him out of the game. The referees did not throw him out of the game. Mick Cronin threw his own player out of the game. And then in the post-game press conference, he went at it with a reporter as well. So he was having himself a night last night that I wouldn't call it a PR person's dream by any stretch of the imagination. It was not the best look for Cronin overall.
I remember the incident between John Calipari when he was young coach and John Chaney at Temple. And I think Chaney was just going to drop him at a press conference. And it's like, whoa, we just went from, college basketball to WWF wrestling. It's, those guys, there are some guys who get really intense and you got to give credit where credit is due. If the guy pulls the kid because the kid pushed a hard foul, then good on him. You want your players to be controlled.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are getting close to the end. Any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Wednesday?
Well, okay. So this is something that I have. It's not going to be broad, but the importance of Jeremiah Wilkinson to the Georgia basketball program, I feel like cannot be overstated enough. He was out for 2 games. 2 games they got blown out in, manhandled in, and then he comes back and they go out and they win in Rupp Arena. They looked like a different basketball team last night. They looked more confident. They looked quicker on defense. They were making a lot more shots. And I think a lot of that came from the return of number 5.
Well, let's hope that, everybody's healthy for the tournament. And, that's what happens when you get in a tournament. Anybody can come out of there.
Yeah.
And definitely going to be an interesting situation for the SEC this year. There's no question about that. Because there's probably 3 or 4 teams that can win that tournament.
Yeah, there's said it earlier, but it's like there's a collection of good talent, but there's no great talent. Like there's no great team in the SEC. There's a lot of good teams. There's no great team. Almost similar to the way the football's been the last 2 years. Is they've had a lot of really good teams. They just haven't had a great team, and I think that may potentially be true again. I'm still watching Florida and curious to see how they continue.
Me too. We'll see how it works out. Well, we'll be back with you tomorrow, guys. Have a lovely day. And for Matt, it's Jim. Take care, everybody. Bye.